How's it going, guys? This is Double Wide 6, and today what I have for you is my Liquidator. I ordered this thing from California, and I live in Pennsylvania, and it took I think about 8 days for it to get here. So it's here. They sent it FedEx. It was free shipping, and now we're going to pop open the box and see what it looks like inside. Alright, let's see what's inside here. Doesn't really look like there's too much to it. So here's basically a look at it. I got the item PST-HSAC201U, and it's the Hasa HSA pool liquidator, 8-gallon with the 3/8 inch upgrade. So if we take a look, it's basically a square bin. It has like a funnel in here with a 10-inch piece of PVC attached to the bottom of the funnel. And then inside here, I guess we have some directions and some tubing and the 3/8 inch fitting. Alright, so now we're going to start our assembly. This is a float. It's labeled out. It's going to go on the left side of the unit. And we're just going to take this apart. This is your hose fittings, so the hose will feed in there a little bit later. So I'm just taking this apart. The rubber gasket that's in there is like a rubber washer. That's going to stay on the inside of the Liquidator unit according to the picture. So here's your rubber gasket right here. That's going to stay on there. And now we're going to put it through here like this. There we go, nice tight fit. And we're just going to tighten this up. And that should hold it in place. And then the next connection will be the hose on the outside. Alright, so that's pretty snug. And I'm going to do the same thing for the inside of the unit. Alright guys, here's a look at the flow meter. And what I have to do is I have to retrofit this flow meter by taking out these 1/4 inch I guess adapters, and we're going to switch them up with the 3/8 inch adapters. So I put a little bit of Teflon tape on the threads, and we're just going to snug these into the flow meter, and I'm going to lightly tighten them with a 3/4 inch wrench. So there's one side, and here's the other one. I guess you guys know how to use Teflon tape. If you have a pool and don't know how to use Teflon tape, I pretty much pity you. Alright guys, after a little bit of research and some suggestions from the Trouble Free Pool Forum, what I've decided is I'm going to hook my Liquidator in. This is the return line to the pool, so I'm going to tie in my Liquidator right here to this saddle clamp. And what I'm going to have to do is, since I have an automatic Chlorinator here, I'm going to have to take this out, and I'm going to have to cap off this saddle clamp because I'm not going to be able to use that. So I don't want the hole in the pipe, so I'm just going to try and cap that off as simply as possible. And I'm going to tie the other end of the Liquidator into one of the plugs on the bottom of my Hayward pump. So first thing I need to do is pull this out of here, the saddle clamp. There we go. And we're going to remove this end cap here from the hose, and we're going to try and put the end cap right back on there after I plug the hole on it, and we're going to see if that holds. So that's what we're going to do. The first thing we want to do is try and cap that off. Alright guys, so here's the cap that I actually removed from the automatic chlorinator, and you can see kind of what it looks like, and there's obviously a hole in here. So I'm not going to be able to use this cap to simply cap off the hole. So I'm going to have to come up with a new strategy. So we're going to toss out that last idea, and I think we're going to just try and use a hose clamp and see if we can seal the hole. Alright folks, so I removed the hose clamp, and as you can see we have a hole there. So I think the next best thing to do is actually put a PVC coupler in there. So we'll cut it right where the hole is and we'll put in a coupler. I was a little worried about doing that because I didn't think I had too much room to actually move the pipe, because as you can see it's tied in here, and there's not a whole lot of room to get the coupler in there. But when you follow the pipe down, you'll notice that it actually threads into the top of the Hayward pump. So what we're going to do is we're going to loosen up that coupler right there. So here's a look at the coupler, and we're just going to loosen that up by turning this collar, and that'll give us access to the pipe and a little bit of movement for getting in our coupler. Alright guys, so you can see the hole there. I wanted to avoid cutting, but it doesn't look like it's going to be an option. So I mean, you could do a hose clamp, but I kind of like doing things right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a cut just slightly above the hole here in our PVC. Alright, that looks pretty good. It looks like we're through. Now I'm going to try and remove that pipe. So down at the bottom, we're going to loosen up this collar tie. And on this thing it says hand tighten only. So I don't want to over tighten that when I'm all done. And I think this pipe will tilt up a little bit to give me some room. And we're going to remove this thing. We're going to straighten out our cut. I'm going to go to my chop saw, and I'm actually going to recut this piece, make it nice and straight. And we want to clean out some of this extra PVC dust. Alright guys, so now we're at the plumbing part of this. We're going to start out by putting a little PVC primer on this pipe right here. Just try and clean it up a little. And we're also going to put a little primer on this here. The one side, well actually we can get both sides of our union. And then we're going to glue one end of the union. So here's our pipe. We're going to run the glue around here without making a mess. We're going to run it around our coupler without making a mess, hopefully. And these two will just get set together, just like that. And we're going to let them dry. Alright, next thing we're going to do is we're going to prime up this pipe. So we're just putting a little PVC primer around there. And this will probably be the most difficult part of the project. At least it's like a pool and not my house plumbing. Although it's supposed to get up to 95 today. So we're putting our glue on here, and then we're going to have to move pretty quick. So we're going to put this on here like this. We're going to bring the pipe into place, tighten it up, and we're going to push down on this pipe, make sure it slides in there. And that looks pretty good. And I'm just tightening it up, and I'm hoping it's going to hold in place for me. It says just hand tighten, so we're going to let that dry. So here's a look at it, finished up. Hopefully you can see the holes removed, and there's now a coupler there. That's better than using a hose clamp. It's fixed permanently now, and it looks good. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to start hooking up the liquidator. Alright guys, so now we're going to start hooking up the hoses. So there's the front of the liquidator, and we're looking at the left side, and here's our out valve. And basically this is our flow adjustment valve, and what we're going to do is we're going to slide the plastic hose right up on there till it gets tight, and then we're going to take this retaining clip thing, and we're going to make sure that we thread that on nice and straight and get it on there even and tight, and that'll be our first connection. So from the out to the flow adjustment control. Alright guys, the next thing I'm doing is I'm taking my flow meter and I'm securing it on one of the PVC pipes so I will be able to read it pretty easily. You have to be careful that you get it flowing the right way. There's an arrow on it that tells you the flow direction, so look for the arrow before you put it in place. Alright guys, now we're just taking some hose and we're going to be using these quick connect fittings, which are real nice. So I'm just pushing this into the infeed side of the flow meter, and you just slip that in there tight like that, and the other end of the hose will come back to our control valve. So I'm just going to slip that in there as well. So coming out of the flow valve, you just follow the hose down, and we're going to have to put in a check valve next, and you'll notice that there's an arrow on the check valve. So I'm just going to cut the pipe, and once again this has quick connect, so we'll just connect it. So the last part of the out feed from your liquidator goes into the back of your pump. Okay, you can either hook it into the pipe, the PVC pipe, or the back of the pump, and this is the fitting that you want to use. It's a quick connect, and it has the right threading to fit right in where your drain plug goes in your pump there. And you can also get an elbow piece. This one here has an elbow on it. They're watts, number PL3028, and this one, the straight one, is watts PL3025, and that should allow it to thread right into your Hayward pump. So I'm going to thread that in. I put a little Teflon tape on it, and then we'll make our connection. Alright guys, now we're working on the inside of the liquidator. So here's where it comes out of the inside of the liquidator, and you can see I'm using Teflon tape on there. I don't know if it's a compression fitting or not, but I'm Teflon taping it just in case. So this is gonna actually slip right on here. Another thing I found is that with like these check valves, it might seem a little bit childish, but if you lick the hose, they slip right in those check valves real easy, because otherwise they get stuck a little bit. So I'm just gonna secure this. Alright guys, here's a look at the inside of the liquidator. So coming out of the right side of the liquidator is your in port, so it's going to connect right there, and then this hose will follow down to a check valve. This check valve needs to be pointing with the arrow pointing towards the liquidator, otherwise it's not going to let liquid flow through it. So that's the way that one needs to be. And then finally I have that hose coming down, and then it's tying in right here to this hose clamp. So that's all it is for the in. It comes from the liquidator down to the check valve with the arrow pointing towards the liquidator, and then it goes back into the return into the saddle clamp which takes it back to the pool. Alrighty, so here's a look at the Liquidator all hooked up. We're going to do a test run here, kind of a cold start, and we're going to look for any leaks. I did not put chlorine in it because I want to make sure everything's flowing right before I have chlorine in it and leaks. So I'm just going to turn it on, and I did prime my pump. So if you're doing this, you want to make sure that you prime your pump. Alright guys, we're in business now. Everything seems to be working. You can see my flow according to the ball right here is at 5. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to dial it down, and by close the valve slightly, it should lower the ball. So as I turn the valve down, it lowers the ball. I now have it set at 3, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to add my chlorine to this, and I'm going to continue to check my free chlorine levels and adjust the valve as needed. So the whole job took me about maybe an hour and a half, but that's with videotaping and stuff. So here's a look at the Liquidator running. I don't know if you can tell on the camera, but I've added some bleach to the bottom. I started out with 6 gallons of bleach because that's about all I had, and it kind of settles on the bottom, and it looks like it mixes and then it distributes to the pool. And I have my flow rate set at 3, and everything's up and running. No leaks, things are looking good.